From waking up absurdly early for 4 weeks to work on his games to showing us how to make games look less trash, Thomas works full time in the industry while also running his own YouTube channel and making his own games on the side. So, Thomas, thank you for joining me today.
Hey Nathan, happy to be here.
Okay, my first question is oh, maybe you said it in the video, but are you a morning person?
Yeah, I uh my dad, growing up, my dad always told me that I was the benefactor of what they call the Stewart curse. And there's two aspects of the Stewart curse. And one is that you're gonna naturally be a morning person, and the second one is that you're gonna be devilishly good looking. And so like, all right, thanks, Dad. But no, I'm definitely naturally a morning person. I'm not naturally a 5 a.m. morning person, but um, yeah, I can't stay up late at all. I just turn off. So I have to get to bed at a decent hour.
What decisions led you to starting your own channel and making videos about games?
I think first and foremost, just the fact that I am a big consumer of devlogs. So I think I started watching my first devlog was I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Francis. He developed Gunpoint and Heat Signature, and he's working on a game called Tactical Breach Wizards. Watching him develop Gunpoint and Heat Signature, he would, record himself in his design process and different philosophies of game design that he was trying to hit, and then also like his implementation and like technical issues that he ran into implementing those things. And I think that that really turned me on to game development in general. Just kind of being able to get into the mind of a game developer. I watch a lot of devlogs. I like to see how different creators create games. And that led to me wanting to show like, hey, I'm working on some kind of cool stuff. I bet other people would enjoy to watch what I'm working on, and it also allows me to have another creative outlet. Because I've always been into making fun little short videos, and um, so that's been a hobby of mine in the past. And I was like, yeah, I'll just give it a shot and see if I enjoy doing it. I think the third reason is that it seems like the best marketing strategy for being able to sell a game, because if you can get people like involved in the game creation process, then one, you have a better likelihood of actually making a game that people want to play, because you'll have that feedback from the community.
In terms of making your own games, what aspects do you enjoy the most? Is there something you always, when it comes to game development, that you're getting lost in?
So I'm a programmer by trade. I went to college for programming, and started out having a job as I was doing enterprise Java web development. It's like building portals for banks and insurance companies and stuff. And so I had like a good technical depth of programming, but I realized that I wanted to be more creative in the stuff that I was making. So I think that's why game development appealed to me so tremendously, because I see game development as like this perfect intersection between math and art. To answer your question about what I find myself lost in, usually the technical stuff I can like, as long as I know what I'm making, I can do that all right. But I spend hours just tweaking aesthetics, and I think that's why I've made like a video about like, yeah, my game used to look like trash and now I'm trying to make it look better, because that's stuff that I still need to tinker with and like figure out uh what my taste is that I'm going for in stuff that I make.
So, do you think you make more videos and focus on things maybe that you feel like you want to work on more rather than sharing stuff you already know about?
Yeah, well, let's see. I guess I do both. One of the videos that I made is like by far the most popular video on my channel, is about how much money I made developing mobile games. I made three of my own mobile games and then put them on the app stores, um, and like spoiler alert, I made no money. So, but it was like a huge learning process, and like that video was really easy to make because I felt like I had this big uh, pool of experience and information that I could draw from. Um, but for videos like I made a video about remaking Mario, but implementing a multiplayer mechanic. Like I didn't know anything about multiplayer, but that video also wasn't super technical. So I don't know. I'm just having fun making videos and just trying to like pursue what interests me, but also not trying to take it too seriously.
I think that's one thing I found in your videos is that all your videos have really interesting premises, and the reason why I click on them isn't so much for the the technical information and stuff, but more on like I'm interested to see how this goes. Like it's very much like an experiment, each of your videos, so they're always really fun to watch.
Yeah, totally. And that's a lot of fun, except for the video that I woke up at 5 a.m. for a month. That one was significantly less fun to do as like an experiment. But yeah, it was worth it. I learned a lot of good things from it.
Where do you think you see yourself and your work going in the future?
That's a hard question because on the one hand, I love thinking about like being able to be self-employed and being able to devote like full-time work into my own games and also into like expanding my YouTube channel and making even better videos. And that's like very appealing to me. But at the same time, I'm also really happy at my day job. So I don't know what it would take for me to quit my job because I really enjoy it. And initially, like I mentioned earlier, I was doing like an enterprise programming job and I didn't care for it too much. And I started learning game development on the side. And then I was able to get to the point where I had a couple things that I could throw together into a portfolio, and um, and I used that to try and get a full-time job as a Unity developer because I figured if I can get a job where I'm working in Unity every day, then my learning growth would just skyrocket, and that's exactly what happened. Um, I feel like I have a much better depth of knowledge with working in Unity now that I've been doing it for a couple of years full time. But yeah, I really enjoy my job. I like my coworkers, but it is still super appealing to me to like try going full time indie and like spending more time in YouTube too. So I don't know. There's just not enough time in the day.
Like I think I'm very much the same. Like I work for a YouTuber. We make videos. Making videos. Every day. How many people want to be able to do that for a living? And so I'm kind of the same boat where it's like if the opportunity came to do what I'm doing with you right now full time and make games, it's like, will I take that up over the work experience I have now? So I don't know. I've never had lots of people are either working a dead end job and they are trying to break into, their own thing, or they love their job and they're like, yeah, this is just my side project.
A lot of people think that they need to monetize their hobbies, and I think that there's a lot of wisdom to trying to just like keep your hobbies as a source of like refreshment and something that gives you energy. But
One reason I think people get burnt out so quickly is because their hobby is also their job. And so they're working all day, coming home and working even more. I think if they change their perspective, they wouldn't get burnt out as much. But you mentioned that you obviously have grown a lot in understanding how Unity works and stuff. Are there any game systems or genres that you want to explore more or experiment with? Maybe you haven't been able to because of the projects you're working on. Is there something on the back burner that you kind of want to explore?
oh, there's a huge list. Yeah, I'm naturally drawn to playing roguelikes, and I think that adding replayability to games are is very interesting to me. I'm really interested in emergent gameplay when you design um, a handful of different systems and then they interact in new and interesting ways that you didn't expect. I think that's why I got so sucked into Tom Francis's devlogs because watching him develop Heat Signature, he would just develop like this ability for you to like board ships and like knock people out and use teleporters and like all these different little rules, and then they acted together in like super zany ways that was so entertaining. So I so I guess like sandboxy games that you can kind of develop like different systems that work together. But I also, from like a technical side, I'm very interested in working in like a third person controller. So that's something that I've never done, like a 3D third person character controller. Because for me, playing games, I'm very much uh, a big factor of whether I enjoy a game is if it's fun to move around. And so like games like Rocket League or Super Mario Odyssey or games like that, if I can just like run around and it feels good, then I think that that's a game that I'm usually interested in. So I think that working on a third person character controller would be a really fun thing to tackle for me next.
So if you had an unlimited budget, what are some things you think you would make or do? You got a blank check for whether it's YouTube or a game project pitch you have. Tell me what would you do?
Oh man, I'd probably just create a bunch of NFTs. Just kidding. No, that's a really good question, and I actually had this exact question posed to me from an interviewer for a job interview that I did a while back, and I've been thinking about it since then. Um, and I think like if I had like a team to support me and I could kind of let my creative juices flow in whatever sort of game I wanted to make, it would um, the short pitch would be Sea of Thieves, but in space. So you'd have like it'd be an online multiplayer game where you could pilot a spaceship and have a crew that's going around the ship, and like things could catch on fire. You could board other people's ships and um, suck people out into space, and you'd have to go out onto the exterior and do repairs. And I think that that'd be a pretty fun game to make.
That's awesome. I've never actually had that pitched to me before. But when you said Sea of Thieves in space, I was like, wow, there's a whole. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
like immediately I saw it in my head. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
damn.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I think that'd be really fun.
Are there any like obviously you've touched mobile and stuff like that. Are there any like platforms? Have you ever thought of like going into VR? Would like console work interest you? Is there any like platform that you thought, wow, it'd be really cool to make something for that?
I started making mobile games because I wanted the barrier of entry into game development to be as small as possible. And so I thought, oh, I already have a phone. So I'll just make a really simple game for my phone, and then it's easily distributable to friends and family and they can check it out. So that's where I started. And then the place that I'm working now full time, we mostly do mobile games. So um, that's kind of like the place where I'm strongest. But I want to right now the main project that I'm working on, my tanks game, is slated to get released for PC, and my goal is that once I wrap that up and launch it on PC, then I'll porting it to Nintendo Switch. So that's that's the goal. I think it'd be really fun to get my hands on a Switch dev kit and be able to run games on there. But um, VR is so interesting to me. I really want to get into it. Like I said, there's just not enough time in the day. There's some people that put on a VR headset and they are just like so amazed by it. Like that's me. I put on the headset and I'm like, whoa, I'm in an open area when like I know I'm in a small room, but then you put it on and like your depth of vision just like expands, and it just feels so cool to interact with stuff, and I'm so into it. But then I talk to other people and they're like, oh yeah, I can't even put on a VR headset because I just get super nauseous. So it's not for everybody. I think that from a game development perspective, it would be really fun to make some games in VR. I was thinking about how fun it would be to make a VR game that resembles like think Overcooked, but you don't move around as much. Um, and instead of making food, you are in a factory line. So like you put on the headset and you're like surrounded by like conveyor belts, and you have to like pick up pieces, put them together, and then like throw them into certain slots, and like things are moving and speeding up. I think that would be a really fun project to dive into, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's really funny you mentioned that because actually my major project for VR that I worked on a lot before I kind of shelved it was something similar to that. It was like a factory game where you were like sorting. I made it more simple, so instead of just putting stuff together as boxes, there'd be basically you'd be quality assurance. So if there was good boxes, you let them through. Damaged ones you'd like throw out, and you'd have like a sassy AI talking to you and stuff. Um, but the one thing I found with VR is that, especially when you're making games for it, the most tiring thing is working in Unity, building or like starting to play it, putting on the headset, standing up, testing them on thing, stopping, taking off, sitting back down, and making those like little, especially when you want to tweak things. Like it
Oh
would be
yeah,
a legitimate physical workout. So like my one rule now
yeah.
is like I'll go back to VR when I can use the editor in the headset and launch it from the like I don't need to take the headset off. Everything's done in the
Yeah,
space.
yeah. That seems like a really cumbersome way to develop it.
Yeah, and like I don't know how like some of the Valve devs did it because they had like for Half-Life Alyx, they had all the Oculus headsets, their own headsets, Windows headsets. Like they were testing every single VR headset too, and I was like, "Oh, dude, your neck would like kill after a days of work." Are there any like video projects that you've wanted to do but you haven't got around to? Like for me, I know there's lots of larger scale video ideas I have, but it would basically either cause me to take a month off work or to hire a production team. Do you have any like bigger ideas?
I get hit with a lot of ideas for games and videos, and they usually come when I'm going on a run. So usually during my lunch break, I have a little husky, and I'll take her for a run around my neighborhood. And it's like my brain shifts into a different state where I just get inundated with crazy ideas. So I'm like trying to like write them down on the notes app in my phone while I'm running so that I don't forget them. So I have a lot of ideas. I was thinking about doing like a really amateur version of like photogrammetry and scanning things into a game and making a video about that. And I was thinking like maybe I'll get my wife to come in and I can just like scan her and then import her into a game, which I think would be really fun. But I think the biggest video aspiration that I have is actually doing something really similar to what you're doing and interviewing other devs. I think that it'd be so fun um, to interview people and just to get to ask them whatever questions that I feel like, and get to learn from. I love this stuff. I follow tons of different indie dev interviews on YouTube, and I think that it's great. I think it'd be really fun to fly out to people, like once the pandemic is fully settled down, and get to see people in person. And like, I don't know that much about videography stuff. What's the word? I haven't invested a lot of money into my YouTube channel. I film pretty much all my videos on my GoPro, but I would love to lean into that and like figure out like better lighting and better camera stuff, and then like go and set up and like interview people and make it just look really good. I think that that would be a fun project to do.
It's just funny, all the stuff you talk about. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. Because I, as well, had a stage of like I had a photogrammetry addiction, I call it, when like I discovered it, I found the free software, and then basically my family hated it because we'd go on walks as a family, and I'd just be like stopped around a pile of trash or like branches or a trunk, and just taking pictures and being like, oh, I'm gonna do this like at home. I'm gonna render it out. It's gonna look great. Um, Look, if your wife is really good at standing still, she'll be a great model for you. But geez, my wife couldn't even keep a straight face. So when I put her in the program, her face was all like, and so
That's awesome. So you've actually done it. How did that go? Like, do you think if you can get someone to stand still, then it would work? Or
I don't know how to explain it, but it's very much like how for 2D artists using reference images, or how a lot of concept artists now they like work from real pictures and then kind of adjust it to make their own thing. I think that's where the strength of photogrammetry comes from. I don't think you can fully 3D scan something and then be like, all right, all good, put it in the game without looking, kind of how you've seen it with like the phone scanning and stuff. For it to really speak, I think, to its quality, you have to go through 3D programs and texturing programs and really refine a lot of the stuff to make it look like a commercial type of thing. Um, and it's like a whole other thing to learn. Like it's one thing to learn to model things yourself, or to, even making like realistic assets by yourself is very different from photogrammetry, because like the way that the software calculates the pictures, you'll like have one picture that's a tiny bit slanted, and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, you can just adjust that, but the program just can't do that, and so it freaks out. Certain details are more easily captured in the program. Like that's why I think nature's so easy to capture, because just all the details on the leaves and the trunk, all that stuff is very easy just to incorporate. And because as humans we're not looking out for that stuff as much, it's easy just to drag and drop it in Unity scene and it look good. But like I've 3D scanned myself, and look, it doesn't look awful, but it has that uncanniness to it that obviously you need an artist or that time to really go in and fix all the issues.
I think that's why I would like to do that uh, in for a YouTube video and not trying to like use that as part of my pipeline for making a game, because then you don't need to make it look
Yeah,
nice. You
yeah,
can just kind of like laugh at it, and
exactly. If
just
you
show
want to
people
make a
like,
fun YouTube video out of it, then
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
I think it'd be really good. You can get some really funny stuff.
yeah. It sounds like a blast. I mean, I just like downloaded one app and like scanned like my coffee mug once, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah,
I should look into this. Yeah.
yeah. What's your favorite beverage?
So I'm a huge beverage guy. And I was so happy when I got to know the guy that my sister married. So he's my brother-in-law. And actually, I mentioned it to you. He's from your neck of the woods. He's from Melbourne. And
Makes so much sense now.
yeah, he we share a love of beverages that I just actually went camping with him this past weekend. And so he's very much like, okay, first thing in the morning, let's brew some coffee and have some coffee. And that's like a fundamental part of my day is having coffee. And then towards the evening, we're both big beer aficionados, so we like IPAs, and we'll crack open a beer and enjoy that. And then right before bed, we'll brew some peppermint tea, and it's just like the perfect top off to the day.
I just ask because, working on a game about beverages, I need to understand. I'm doing a tally basically with people. Like, what are your favorite beverages, so I don't miss anything? And no one's actually mentioned like herbal tea and stuff yet. So,
Yeah, it's the best way to transition into like, it's like so calming, you kind of can wind down before you go to bed. And
well, I think the last question to ask you is, what are you playing? Obviously, you're making and working a lot, but in your actual downtime, what do you enjoy playing?
when Halo Infinite came out, I was playing a bunch of that. Um, I enjoyed the campaign. I zipped through the campaign and then haven't touched it since, unfortunately, but I really enjoyed it. I've always been a big Halo guy. Oh, but what I've been playing really recently is Tunic. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like oh, you have to look into it. It's awesome. And it's gorgeous. It's like such a good art style. It's 3D isometric, and it's basically like if The Legend of Zelda and Dark Souls had a baby.
Oh no, I have seen this game. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so fun because the the gameplay is super fun. It has like that Zelda like puzzle dungeon crawl sort of vibes to it. But the combat is really punishing. It's the same mechanic like Dark Souls, where you find campfires and that's your save points, but then it respawns enemies. I think I really enjoy it because it doesn't hold your hand at all. So like throughout the game, you'll find pages to like the instruction booklet, and it's like made to look like one of those like really old like actual instruction booklets that you'd get with games. And you can completely miss them. Like you can not go down a certain route and then you wouldn't find a certain page. I'm like missing a bunch of pages. But then when you find them, they have all these hints and like tell you about how different mechanics works. And it's mostly all from illustration. There's not a lot of words in it. So it's like, but then you discover that like, oh, if you dash, then you're invincible for a couple frames, and like it'll tell you like, oh, this is where you need to go if you go into this tunnel. And so it's like it's really rewarding but also difficult. So I'm really enjoying it. I think the guy I think he spent like 7 or 8 years making it or something. So it's like a long time, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So those are all the questions, but I was wondering if you could tell the people watching, where they can find your work, how they can support you, what you're doing now, socials, everything like that.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. I'm on Twitter a lot. I don't remember my Twitter URL. I think it's Thomas W. Stewart or something like that. On YouTube, I'm also just under Thomas Stewart. I think my URL is Thomas Stewart Dev or something. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really doing much for people to support me. You can come watch my videos or you can come chat with me. I mean, I'm open to chatting with people all the time. I get some direct messages from people that are like asking for advice, and I just love helping people out and teaching people from my experience and connecting with other people who are passionate about game development. So it's been a really fun community to dive into. Everyone's really supportive of each other, and it's just fun to grow and get encouragement from other people. So
Everyone, links in the description. Go support them, check their stuff out. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know who else you want me to interview. But as well, if video form isn't your thing, you actually prefer listening to this, I just want you to know that you could have listened to this and the previous one with Samyam, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm now posting these as podcasts as well. If that's something you want to listen to, then just head over to Developer Interviews with Nathan Rona and you'll find them somewhere, hopefully. Also, if you want to support the channel financially, there's a Teespring link to my Nathan mug. Or if you want to, you can support me on Ko-Fi as well. Any financial contributions I get from Ko-Fi or Teespring, they go to making these videos, whether it's editing, resource templates, all that sort of stuff. So just know that your money's going into getting more of the stuff that you just watched. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you all for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.